The city never slept, not for people like Ethan Cross, and definitely not for people like Lena Carter. One lived above the skyline where power decided the future of entire industries, the other survived beneath it. One exhausted shift at a time, but after the night red wine spilled across a billionaire's suit, something changed, because Ethan Cross had humiliated many people before, yet somehow, the poor waitress he embarrassed in front of an entire restaurant became the one woman he could not remove from his mind. And what Ethan still didn't know, was that every step closer he moved toward Lena Carter would bring him closer to a truth powerful enough to destroy the version of himself he spent years building, because sometimes guilt doesn't arrive immediately, sometimes it waits, quietly, patiently, until the exact moment your heart finally becomes vulnerable enough to feel it, and Ethan Cross was about to learn that the hard way. Rain slid slowly across the massive glass windows of Ethan Cross's penthouse while the city lights below flickered like distant stars beneath the storm. The room itself was silent, too silent, a silence most people would envy. Luxury surrounded him from every direction. Imported marble floors, modern artwork worth millions, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline, a private office larger than most apartments, and yet Ethan couldn't focus, not on the report sitting open before him, not on the upcoming merger waiting for his approval, not even on the assistant currently speaking beside him. The investors from Singapore want confirmation before Thursday. Ethan stared blankly at the city. Sir? Still nothing, his assistant adjusted nervously. Mr. Cross? Finally Ethan blinked slowly. What? The Singapore contracts. Ethan lowered his eyes toward the papers, but instead of numbers, he saw her face again, Lena Carter, standing silently beside the restaurant table while red wine spread across his suit, not angry, not defensive, just hurt, a different kind of hurt, the kind people carried long before humiliation ever entered the room. Ethan leaned back slowly. Reschedule the meeting. The assistant froze. Sir. That deal is worth, I said reschedule it. The assistant immediately nodded, of course. Minutes later, the penthouse became quiet again. But the silence only made her return stronger inside his thoughts. Why? That question irritated him more than anything else. Why her? He met hundreds of people every week, models, executives, socialites, influencers, people constantly fighting for his attention. Yet somehow the only person occupying his mind tonight was a waitress who rejected his apology. Ethan stood suddenly and walked toward the window. Rain blurred the city beneath him, and without realizing it, he whispered her name, Lena. The sound felt strange leaving his mouth, almost personal, almost dangerous. Behind him, his phone vibrated again. This time Ethan answered immediately. Yes. A calm voice responded, the background search has started, sir. Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. Good. Should we continue full investigation? Ethan hesitated, then quietly, yes. The call ended, and somewhere deep inside him, something unfamiliar began growing, not curiosity anymore, obsession. The next morning arrived cold and gray. Lena Carter barely slept. She stood inside the tiny bathroom of her apartment staring at dark circles beneath exhausted eyes while old pipes rattled somewhere behind the walls. Her body ached, every movement felt heavier now. Slowly she tied her hair back and splashed water across her face before looking toward the bedroom where her mother slept quietly beneath thin blankets. Machines hummed softly beside the bed, medication bottles lined the nightstand. Lena walked closer, carefully, gently. She adjusted the blanket around her mother's shoulders before forcing a smile. I'll be back after my shift. Her mother opened tired eyes slowly. You should rest more. Lena smiled again, I'm fine. But both of them knew that was a lie, because Lena Carter hadn't truly been fine in years. Still, she kept surviving, because survival was the only thing life allowed her to focus on now. Outside, cold wind rushed through the streets as Lena boarded a crowded bus toward the restaurant district. People pushed past each other impatiently. Nobody noticed her. Nobody recognized the woman standing quietly beside the window once belonged to one of the most powerful luxury families in the country, and that was exactly how Lena wanted it, invisible, forgotten, safe. At the restaurant, workers rushed everywhere preparing for another expensive evening. The manager immediately approached her. "You're late." Lena checked the clock. "I'm 2 minutes early." "Then act like it." He shoved menus into her hands before walking away. Nearby workers exchanged awkward glances. Everyone remembered the incident with Ethan Cross, and unfortunately, so did the customers. Throughout the afternoon, whispers followed Lena constantly. "That's the girl. The one who spilled wine on Ethan Cross. I heard she almost got fired." She probably should have. Lena ignored all of it, or at least pretended to. But pressure kept building quietly inside her chest. Then came the lunch rush. Orders piled endlessly. One customer complained about cold soup, another snapped because her coffee arrived late, someone else insulted her accent. Still Lena remained calm, always calm, until one older woman stopped her unexpectedly. The woman studied Lena carefully. "You look familiar." Lena froze slightly. The woman narrowed her eyes. "Have we met before?" Lena forced a polite smile. "I don't think so." But her heartbeat had already started rising, because every time someone looked too closely at her, fear returned, fear that the past would finally catch up, fear that someone would recognize the Carter name, fear that everything she buried would surface again. The woman eventually shook her head and returned to her meal, but Lena's hands continued trembling afterward, not from exhaustion this time, from memory. 3 nights later, the restaurant doors opened again, and silence subtly shifted across the room. Ethan Cross had returned, but this time, he came alone. No investors, no business partners, no meetings, just him. Lena noticed him immediately from across the room. So did everyone else. The manager rushed forward instantly. "Mr. Cross, welcome back." Ethan barely acknowledged him. His eyes were already searching the restaurant, searching for her. Then finally, their eyes met. Lena stopped moving for half a second. That half second was enough, Ethan noticed, and strangely, something tightened inside his chest again. The manager smiled nervously. "Would you like your usual table?" Ethan answered without looking away from Lena, "Yes." Minutes later, Lena approached carefully holding a tray, professional, controlled, emotion hidden beneath routine. Ethan watched her place water onto the table. "You came back," she said quietly. Ethan leaned back slightly. "So did you." Lena ignored the comment. "Are you ready to order?" But Ethan wasn't listening to the menu. He was studying her instead, the exhaustion beneath her eyes, the small bruise near her wrist, the way she subtly shifted pressure off one foot because her heels hurt, tiny details, tiny signs of struggle, and somehow Ethan noticed all of them. Finally he spoke. "You look tired." Lena paused, then continued writing. "What would you like to eat, sir?" Ethan almost smiled. She refused to engage with him emotionally. Every answer remained guarded, careful, distant. That only made him more interested. After ordering, Ethan reached into his pocket slowly and placed folded bills onto the table, a proper apology this time. Lena stared at the money. Then at him, and once again, she pushed it back. "I told you already." Ethan frowned slightly. Most people wouldn't refuse that much money. Lena answered quietly, "Most people haven't learned what money can do to people." The sentence hit Ethan harder than expected, because something about the way she said it sounded personal, very personal. Before he could respond, another waiter called her away, and once again Ethan found himself watching her disappear into the crowd. Only this time, he realized something dangerous. He wasn't just curious anymore, he was emotionally invested. And that terrified him more than any business risk ever had. Later that night, Ethan sat alone inside his office again, but this time the investigation report waited open on his desk. He stared at it for several seconds before finally reading. Name, Lena Carter, age, 26, employment, restaurant server, current residence, low-income apartment district, known relatives, mother, hospitalized, father, deceased. Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. Then he saw the name beneath it. Richard Carter, and suddenly, everything inside him went still. The rain outside seemed quieter, the room colder. Ethan slowly leaned forward. Richard Carter. He knew that name, not casually, not distantly. He knew it from years ago, from corporate meetings, acquisition files, emergency negotiations during one of the biggest luxury industry collapses in recent history. Ethan immediately opened archived company records. File after file appeared across the screen, until finally, Richard Carter Industries. Ethan clicked it, and memory returned instantly. The collapse, the scandal, the acquisition, the headlines. He remembered signing approval documents connected to the takeover years earlier. At the time it was business, necessary. Business, at least that's what everyone called it. But now there was a face attached to the consequences. Lena's face. Ethan stared silently at the old documents while tension slowly tightened across his jaw. Then suddenly, a photograph appeared inside the archive, a much younger Lena standing beside Richard Carter at a luxury fashion event years ago. Elegant dress, confident smile, flash cameras everywhere, completely different from the exhausted waitress he met. Ethan stared at the image for a long time, because now he understood something horrifying. Lena Carter had not been born into poverty, she had fallen into it. And somehow, his world had been connected to the reason why. Across the city, Lena sat beside her sleeping mother sketching new fashion designs quietly beneath dim apartment lights. Beautiful designs, brilliant designs, the kind capable of rebuilding empires. But she no longer believed dreams like that belonged to people like her. Then suddenly, someone knocked on her apartment door. Lena froze. Nobody visited this late. Slowly she stood. Another knock. This time louder. Her heartbeat rose carefully. Then came a voice from outside, calm, deep, familiar. Lena. Her eyes widened instantly, because she recognized that voice immediately. Ethan Cross. And standing outside her apartment door was the man connected to the destruction of her entire life. To be continued. Was the man connected to the destruction of her entire life.